Close call. We did lose some juicy content, but we didn't lose all the juicy content, which is the important part.
We were just talking about the complexities of different APIs. You were talking about the store credit stuff. And I totally agree. I think I've heard it's riskier because store credit is almost,
Yeah.
and a gift card is like money basically. So
Yeah.
they want to, make sure that's locked down. And I'm sure there's like a waiver or something that you have to sign to get access to that.
Also, I have a very dumb question. How do you get access to a developer preview exactly? I don't think I've ever done that.
So do you have a Shopify partner account?
Yes.
So if you go in there and you create like a new developer store, at the bottom, they'll have an option to use a developer preview. There's five to choose from right now, and there's like a drop down. Yeah.
And can you change an existing dev store, or do you?
No, it has to be a new store, and you can't once it's a developer preview, you can't convert it to a live store at any point.
But can it just be a regular dev store?
Like a normal dev store without a developer preview can be converted, but if you enable a developer preview when you're creating it, it'll always be a dev store.
Right. Okay. I see this. So developer preview, global nav, store credit primitive, checkout and customer account flexibility, extended variants, discount allocator functions, theme blocks. So you have to pick one of those. Got it. Okay. Good to know. To know.
the more you know.
That's awesome, dude. That's friggin' sweet. All right. Cool. So I'll have to do that. I really need to fix my dev store situation because it looks horrible. All my test products are ridiculous. And a buddy of mine, he spent a whole weekend building out really nice demo stores with cool product shots and he shared it with me. He shared his image assets and stuff. And so I was going to at some point go in and make something that would look better for demos, but I'm just powering through, dude. I got the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe as one product, and a blank brown towel is I use for everything. But anyways, so yeah, dude.
We use our catnip store. It still has our old products from 6 years ago. The t-shirts, they're still there.
Nice.
The headless commerce and all that stuff.
I love those shirts, man. Deploy on Fridays. Winter is coming. Yes. Code freeze is coming. I remember.
Yeah. Maybe we might have some new merch coming soon. There might be new Natalico site coming soon. Maybe it's going to be on Shopify. We'll see. I don't want to spoil anything.
That's cool. It's cool how you can do that. You can put an agency site or more general purpose site on Shopify without it being completely we used to try to do that with Magento, but it was really a stretch type of thing. So it's cool that it's more reasonable.
We've been using WordPress, but it's most of the team knows how to use WordPress, but I think the more that you specialize in one platform like Shopify, the more annoyed you are when you have to go outside of that platform. And it's just, man, this would be so much easier in Shopify, or we're better at doing this kind of thing in Shopify. So we finally decided, all right, let's just rebuild our site in Shopify.
Do you have a nice page builder that you like to use for stuff for Shopify sites?
That's a good question because we used to love Shogun, but with the online store 2.0 stuff, and they've been expanding it so much, normally we recommend trying to do it without a page builder because built-in page builder is pretty powerful. It has sections, blocks, and developers that can create custom sections and blocks and everything. So if you can, it's so much cleaner not to use one of the app page builders because they just generate gobbledygook code.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I did a little thing with a little demo added a couple little custom liquid blocks for the wish list thing. And then you can just drop liquid in there. You can do JavaScript to hit API. You can fetch JavaScript fetches.
Always fetching.
And then now I gotta always be fetching. And then somebody was like, oh, it'd be cool to see that in the customer accounts UI using the customer accounts UI extension. And I was like, oh, let me check that out. It's a whole different thing, man. It's these crazy React components and So I wanted to figure it out, but it's a little bit of a learning curve.
At some point, I might have to learn React. Like Shopify keeps pushing it a little more, and like the checkout stuff, and
Yeah.
now the customer accounts, and obviously the headless stuff. It's mostly in React, and it's, oh man,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like by default. I think React looks terrible. It's you're not supposed to put the code in line like they do in React, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. People love it.
People sure seem to love it, man. That's for sure. It's cool though, because you can trust like that it's like the right way to do things when Shopify builds out something like this
Yeah,
versus like with Magento, it was like the stuff they were doing with React, it was like very much not the case. But like when I see something like this, I go, I'm willing to take the time to sit down and learn it because I'm like, okay, this is like the right way to be doing things, you
I
know,
did
and it
hear.
yeah.
Oh, good.
No, and it ties in nicely with their metafields and different like variables you can pull in and stuff. Like it's without being like a React expert, my sense is it's all architected.
Yeah. There's been like React, Vue, Angular. I think those have been like the main three in the past couple years. And I do feel like there's like a slow shift that like more and more people are going React. So if you have to learn React, I don't think you're going to be abandoned of learning a platform or a framework and like suddenly no one uses it. It's like, why did I waste my time learning this, framework?
Yeah, totally. Okay, subscriptions. You're a subscriptions guy. You've done a lot
Yeah.
of recharge stuff and whatnot. I have a quick recharge rant too, actually. I don't know if I should prepend or append the recharge rant, but is Shopify subscriptions going to kill all the Shopify apps? Have you looked at it yet? Have you messed around with it at all? I haven't really looked at it.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to kill the other subscription apps. It's probably going to hurt them a little bit in, I don't know, newer, lower end customers because there's like now a default option.
Mhm.
But to be frank, a lot of those customers actually drain the resources of like recharge and the subscription apps because they're not doing a lot of volume anyway, but
Mhm.
they have just as many or more questions than a
Mhm.
bigger merchant. So I
Yeah.
don't think it's, at least in the short term, it's definitely not a threat. In the long term, if Shopify continues to improve the capabilities and it's like a basically a free version instead of
Mhm.
having to pay a tax to a recharge, I could see
Mhm.
people making that switch because
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I save 1% on every transaction.
Yeah. Any particular features that you noticed off the bat are missing? Had time to do a
I
deep dive or anything, but
Yeah, I think it's more on kind of the admin analytics side. Recharge and a lot of the other apps, Smarter, Order Groove, have a lot of back-end analytics around your subscriptions, and I
mm,
didn't see a lot of that in the Shopify version. But
gotcha.
yeah, Shopify might improve their subscriptions analytics, so it definitely could be a competitor in the near future. It's just for now, I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's just there's so much devils in the details. Like I was working on a SKU swap integration for recharge, and that's an example. Are there SKU swaps in this app? Probably not, I'm guessing. But there's just so many different things there. But okay, quick recharge rant. So I'm building this integration that when a SKU swap happens, it looks at the because the particular SKU is like a SaaS thing. It's like a membership thing. So it would make
Gotcha.
more sense if that piece was done in like a Stripe that would handle prorated charges within the
Yep.
month when something changes. But it doesn't. So we're basically doing that piece. So SKU swap happens. We look at the difference in price, the number of days into the month, figure out a prorated charge, charge a one-time charge, which I figured that part out. But then if the difference is negative, you want to give them a credit on their next upcoming charge
Hmm.
or do a partial refund on a recent charge. And then I was looking at the charges, and the charge entity object is not an individual charge. It's there's a charge ID for it's almost like the charge that created the subscription, which you would think that would just be the subscription object and the
Yeah.
charges would be the individual charges, but it's not quite like that. So then there's like a charge activity on the
Um,
charge, that has a unique ID for the charge activity, but there's no docs for, and you can't refund a charge activity. So
Hmm.
I might be a little stuck on that. I don't know if you have any quick insights, but it's
I I don't have any quick insights, but that is one thing that's better about Recharge versus Shopify subscriptions is I don't think there's an API for Shopify subscriptions.
didn't they
You
release the
couldn't.
API though? Like previous, didn't they do the API before the app? Because there is a
Uh,
subscriptions API,
yeah.
and I think
Is
some
there?
of the
Oh,
yeah. So
but I
like
think it's for the apps to use the subscriptions. I don't think. Sorry, I need to do something.
oh yeah, no problem.
Sorry. I don't think that there's a way to use their new subscription app and then right now, nameless that they haven't set
Someone
up their
else who
phone.
lives with me and is a constant pain in my butt. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
I'd have to
Um,
nail someone that I told them to set up their phone.
okay, so this is interesting. Yeah, no, so there's definitely API. I haven't actually used it before, but it definitely could be the case that like only apps can access it versus stores being able to access it. I'd be surprised if that was the case, but
I
it's
think that is the case because the subscription started where there was no API at all. Recharge had to create their own checkout. And then Shopify created a subscription API
mhm.
for subscription apps to use the Shopify checkout. And that's where we were like a year ago. And then Shopify created their own subscription app to use their own API,
Mhm.
but I don't think that they have a custom API to tie into their own app. And I think that's intentional because I do think that they want to keep the subscription app like simple, and they say like for more advanced cases like we have all these subscription apps. Knock yourself out using one of those.
We will have to
My
follow
theory.
up on that, dear podcast listeners, and see what the deal is there. I'm willing to wager at least $3 or $4 that there's access to this API. My own personal finances,
Okay.
but we'll see.
We're
But that's one
recording
of these
this,
weird
so it's
things. Is
documented.
certain sometimes there's something is only a custom app can access it, or only a public app, or things like that. I remember the gift card.
Yeah.
I remember seeing this cool gift card app called Gift Card Hero, and then they use API, but you can't just get access. You have to request access to that, and then you can't interact with their stuff over the gift cards API either. So there's definitely those. Maybe this is the exact same situation that you're talking
Hmm.
about,
Yeah.
but yeah, those
Interesting in the editions that you saw.
I don't know there was anything. I mean, there's so many things, but I'm not having a hard time remembering anything in particular that stuck
One
out. I
thing.
did, yep.
Okay, you go ahead.
I did notice there was a new POS app, and I was curious about that because I've played a little bit with the point of sale app. I think it said there's a new terminal. So I don't know if it's the phone app or if it's just specifically an app that gets used on the terminal hardware. But I have played around with the phone app a little bit, and it's a little tricky. I've heard that from several people. It's a little bit of a pain to use. So I was curious to see if that got better, but haven't
I
actually
I
been
know
able
that
to.
they're really pushing retail this year. I was at
Hmm.
NR kind of. I was at NRF and then I immediately got sick and basically didn't attend the rest of the conference, but I did go by the booth for a second and like they had all the retail stuff, POS stuff. And so I think that they're really trying to get more into like physical retail because also like enterprise e-commerce, but I do think that they feel like they've saturated their mid-market e-commerce and they're like, all
Hmm.
right, how can we expand? Can we replace Square and all these brick and mortar stores?
Nice.
So
That makes sense.
yeah,
I thought the AI thing for product images looked super cool.
it's kind of cool.
And of course, now I'm going to see if I can actually use it. And I don't have the slightest idea whether you could use that. But it had a really cool demo. Transform your product photography with AI. Create professional no design to learn more. Oh, available in early 2024. Okay, so I guess it's
Mhm.
Not available yet.
I was listening to this podcast about AI generated products where
Mm-hmm.
there's these like stores spinning up where they just have a jacket and AI generated it, and then you order it, and then some Chinese manufacturer like just prints it on demand, and then you get
What?
something that like it like roughly resembles what you ordered, but it's just all plasticky, and you're like,
No.
what?
Oh no.
So the future of AI and e-commerce, I think.
That's funny. They'll eventually get there. It might be 50 years or something like that. You just
I
3D
think
print it
the
or something.
Shopify's application is pretty cool because I think it's probably supposed to take your existing photography and make it look better or put it into different situations as opposed to trying to like
Yeah.
generate products that didn't exist.
Yeah, no, that's a real finesse use case. And I've definitely tried that a little bit with ChatGPT and it DALL-E, and it doesn't keep your product image the same. It does crazy things with it. So
Yeah. Have you tried
um,
Midjourney?
a little bit, yeah. The Slack or the Discord thing is so confusing, but I've
It's
tried it a
very
couple
weird.
times. I don't get it, man. It's such a strange thing.
It's a weird
But
interface. I think it's
people are
like way
doing
more powerful than like DALL-E, and it's the whole Discord thing is very weird. Do they not have an API?
it is the strangest like product
It's also
launch.
very slow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, there's this one dude I follow on Twitter, Phil, something that does really cool. The Twitter search is so bad. I can never find anybody if I'm following them or anything. It's so horrible. But yeah, he's been
Use that
doing like
AI.
product photography and stuff like that with I think Midjourney, and he does really cool stuff.
That is cool.
Um,
Yeah. I think
yeah.
that's a good use case for it to have your product and then get better like lifestyle images or something like that.
Yeah, that's the killer use case for sure. Oh, one other thing that caught my attention was Toby had tweeted about some of the functions, new functions that enable some new Shopify functions for building apps that were previously impossible. And their cart checkout validation, cart transformer, delivery customization, discount allocator, fulfillment constraints, payment customization. But I feel like functions is one of the like best play like for people building. Like you look at what Gil's done with checkout blocks.
Hmm.
Like I feel like functions is a place to be if you're building a product. And
Mm-hmm.
just the fact that he said this allows you to build apps that were previously impossible, I'm just like, oh, dude,
It's the
so
dream.
juicy. But yeah,
Before they
that's
had the Shopify script editor, but that was so janky and you couldn't have an app that used it. You would have
mm,
to like literally have the merchant kind of copy and paste some scripts in the script editor. So
mm,
functions are really cool because they're doing that in like a way cleaner way, and they're
mm,
actually adding capabilities versus I think they stopped adding capability to the script editor like 2 or 3 years ago. So it's
mm,
stagnated. But
mm.
like you said, function seems to be the future.
Yeah, I looked at that a little bit. I want to get a little app going just to be able to do a little thing here and there.
You
But
should.
yeah, that looks cool. So yeah,
Did
dude,
you see
so many things.
the combined listings app? It's like
Sounds
a
familiar.
way to merge if you have multiple products, supposedly, that you can put them on like the same product page.
Oh, yes. Yes. That
Those,
actually looked super interesting.
yeah,
Um,
they because I've seen, or actually we've had to do customizations for that a number of
mm,
times where products like or merchants want product to have its own product page, but also like
mm,
maybe if you have a bunch of sodas or something, you want to be able to switch through them on one product page if you're just switching through flavors. And
mm-hmm,
so I think it's
mm-hmm,
cool that they're
mm-hmm.
trying to make that native so a developer won't always have to do it custom.
Yeah, that's a huge one. And things like having a collections page that can show your different variants, different
Yeah,
colorways of your
colorways.
products and things like that. Because I remember hearing that like sometimes people would do unique separate products for each variant in order to do collections and things like that. And then somebody recently in the Slack posted like all of the potential issues you have to resolve when you do that. And it's like
Yep.
duplicate feed content for Google Feed. And there was like 7 different things that I hadn't thought about that you'd have to work around. So this is a very nice feature, actually.
Yeah, and sometimes when you get into like inventory and like ERPs and even fulfilling the orders, if you don't have a clean way of tying that SKU to the correct SKU like internally, it's
Mm-hmm.
just the back end stuff is more of a nightmare than even like
Mm-hmm.
making it look good on the front end. So
Mm-hmm.
if this
Mm-hmm.
works like I think it does, it's gonna be super useful.
Yep, dude. Absolutely. Yeah, dude. Super cool.
Any other like side projects you've been working on lately
Side
or main projects?
projects, main projects. I'll shill some of my recent workflows that I've worked on.
Oh yeah.
I did one on image alt text with Chat GPT. I'd done this one previously. I found some API, image to text API, replicate.com. That was pretty
Hmm.
good. But the Chat GPT Vision API is quite a bit better. And then
Oh,
it's just right in Chat GPT.
for like
Yeah.
SEO and like ADA compliance as well.
Yep. Yep.
That's a big thing when we're trying to do ADA like checks. Hey, you got to input alt tags on all your images.
Yeah, totally. And also, I was able to grab all the image. Initially, I thought you could only grab images for products, but then there's a files query, GraphQL query where you can grab all the image files across the whole site. So yeah,
That's
so that's pretty cool. I did some tests this morning actually, and the descriptions were pretty good, man. They were like, I don't think I have them handy, but they were pretty decent. And I didn't even
mhm.
feed in the product description or product title, which probably would improve the prompt a little bit, but just
Yeah,
the image itself and say, hey, give me an image alt text for this, and it's like pretty good.
that's
That
a
was pretty
very
cool.
good use case. I think even better than your meta description title one.
Nice. Feel free to sign up and subscribe to that one.
Yeah.
That was so dumb. Subscribe. Oh, I did notice it looked really cool. I know you hate page builders. I
No,
noticed. I know you hate all page builders in the entire page builder community, but I noticed
just
this
most
thing with with instant
opinion.
HQ, the
Okay.
instant product, and it has a Figma integration. So it just
Oh,
goes like directly from Figma to Shopify, which looked pretty sweet.
that's
I've
cool. What was the
done too
name of
much
that
with it.
again?
Yeah, Instant HQ. I actually just DM'd the link to the tweet, but it's Twitter handles Instant HQ, but the product is just Instant Page Builder and Instant.so. That seems pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to check this out. I think
Nice,
we use Figma and Adobe XD for designs, but
nice,
they're pretty comparable. Very cool.
nice.
Actually, speaking of this reminds me, I was playing around with digital. I think
Mm-hmm.
it uses the Shopify Headless APIs, and I think it uses what is it, Hydrogen, but
Mm-hmm.
it has its own kind of page builder that
Mm-hmm.
you can create the pages so that you're not just doing everything in code. It was one of the first times that I was like, maybe I could do a site in headless if there is some sort of page builder that the merchant actually has control. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's always what I'm afraid of is if we do a site that's totally headless, then the merchant's like, hey, I need to add this section to the homepage. And we're like, well,
Yeah.
we're going to have to do a code change for that, a couple days deployment
Right. Right.
process. But this looked pretty cool. And they're using, I think, the latest Hydrogen build, and they're keeping up with what Shopify is doing, but also having the kind of drag and drop builder.
Nice. Yeah, I remember seeing Dylan Whitman recommend that one pretty strongly.
Yeah.
So always pay attention to what he says, pretty much. He's got a good pulse on things.
I think
Shout out to Dylan Whitman.
one
Uh,
of truck.com, one of our clients, like employees that we used to work with, he started working for truck.com and they use it and it's pretty slick. It's fast, looks good.
yep.
Uh,
How do you spell that?
Truff.
Oh, cool. I thought you said truck.com. I was like,
Yeah,
that's a
truck,
cool
yeah.
domain.
Kim Kardashian invested in Truck.com recently.
Got it. She is a serious business lady, that's for darn sure.
Yeah, I think Skims is on Shopify Headless. I think
Yep.
Skims is on like the old version of Headless, and I think the Skims site's a little janky. It's a little slow for Headless, so it's not a super good demo of what Headless can do. But I think Truff's a much better example.
This is a snazzy looking site, man.
It's fast too, right?
Yeah, it seems pretty fast. Heck yeah. I never knew that existed. What is this? Is it like
It's
seasoning?
it started as truffle oil.
Okay.
I think their first product was just like a normal oil infused with truffles, and now
Mm,
they've had like collaborations with Hidden Valley Ranch, and they have
that's
their like hot
crazy.
sauce, and they've doubled down on their sauces. And
Weird that like one of the more like innovative sites in e-commerce is like a seasoning thing. It's so
yeah,
random. This is great, man. You'd think they'd be selling clothes or something, dude. Just seasoning.
yeah.
I love it.
At least they didn't have to do their whole headless implementation from like scratch, because
Yeah.
that would be a lot for, like you said, like a simple site. And so that's what I'm looking at, like Pack and some ways to do headless
Mm,
where you're not doing it totally from scratch, because I just don't think that makes sense for 99% of merchants. But maybe there's 5 to 10% that if you're using some sort of page builder in headless, there's a in between use case there.
definitely. Oh, import export custom metafields. Actually, that's interesting. That's one of those use cases I run across a lot when I'm hunting for use cases, is like metafields and things like that. I think
We normally
Matrixify
have to use
handles
it.
those. Yeah.
Yeah, have to use an app like that, but it'll be nice to do that more like first party.
Yeah. But again, it's funny that it's only customer metafields. Like,
Is that what it
and
says? What?
yeah, yeah. And it's interesting because I remember seeing this actually like a week or two ago. Somebody mentioned it in the Slack. They were like, oh, I didn't realize you could include metafields in the export.
Hmm.
And a couple people were like, oh, yeah, I didn't realize that either. And then I went to check and see if it was possible with the products export, which it's not. So it's another one of those things where it's like, I guess there's probably just a lot more effort to
It
do
does
that
say
for.
in the description, you'll soon be able to import and export smart collections and variants and collection metafield data. So maybe they're getting a little outside of just customer. But you might be right that it's still not like all meta,
Yeah.
but having like product metafields would be useful to just be able to clone a store like quickly or even back up a store. That's the kind of scary thing sometimes, is you realize if you've had a client accidentally delete like 100 blogs, there's no
Mm.
backup feature by default, and Shopify doesn't have, oh yeah, we can just roll back the database. There's a couple apps to do backups, but most merchants don't have any kind of backup solution.
Do you
A little
like
scary.
Rewind for that?
I think that's like the default one I've seen. They did save one of our client sites when they deleted, I think. Actually, I think there was like a bad import of products that like messed
Mm.
up a bunch of products, and
Mm.
we were able to get a backup of what the products were like the day before. So,
Mm.
it's an insurance plan. You probably
Mm.
don't need it 99% of the time, but yeah,
Mm.
that 1% saves your life.
Now that I think about it, maybe I'll do a little Mesa workflow on that because it might
Yeah.
be a. Sometimes it's, yeah, there's an existing solution, but then maybe if you can have something that's a little simpler at a lower price point, which actually may or may not be possible now that I'm looking at their price points, then it can be a nice little option.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember seeing, yeah, they do have metafield backups. May not have meta object backups. That's a good question. I remember seeing them release
Details.
some new features recently and being like, man, it's crazy how products will just keep adding different features. Monitor. Oh, yeah, Rewind Monitor is what I'm thinking about. So it's like simulated user journeys and clicks. So it's like a store monitoring deal,
It's cool.
which, yeah, it's cool. It's like in many ways like very different from the backups, but it fits
Hmm.
together nicely.
Yeah, I think
Um,
they're trying to create products around like almost the insurance of preparing for a
right.
disaster and helping you when something goes wrong.
Right. Yeah, 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 yeah. It fits really nicely into that value prop.
They have now backups for Klaviyo, which I never really thought about that before, but I could see the same thing happening where someone
Mhm.
deletes like a an email list of thousands of subscribers, and I doubt Klaviyo has a backup. I
Right.
haven't asked them. Luckily, I don't think we've ever had a Klaviyo disaster, but
Mm.
sure will happen eventually.
Nice. Noticed actually this feature that I had been looking at, like markets. I had seen some workflow requests around this where somebody has, let's say, a US market, an Australian market, and they want people in Australia to only be able to order from the Australian location or warehouse location, whatever. And by default, it doesn't work like that. By default, you can order, the markets are not tightly coupled to the locations in that sense.
Yeah,
But I
we
think they fixed
did they
exactly
fix
that.
it?
I think they added
Okay.
support for exactly that.
That's good. We literally had that exact issue like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I told someone to Slack you. I'm not sure if
Hell
they did.
yeah. Okay.
Did they?
Nice.
I'm
I
guessing
don't
they
think
didn't
they
Slack you.
did. I don't think they did, but I'm just
I told
pumped that
someone
you
on my
told somebody
team,
to.
I'm like, we
Oh
have an
shit.
expert in our Slack. I'm gonna have to
Hell
follow
yeah.
up. And they're like, why didn't you Slack our
Yeah.
resident
He's so,
Mesa expert?
hell yeah, dude. I'm trying to find this in the editions, but yeah, translator. Anyways, it's so hard to find anything in this thing. This damn website. This janky ass web. No, I'm just kidding. It's hard to find stuff because there's so much stuff, which is a good thing. I need a
Yeah.
spreadsheet, dude. I like. It's funny. I tweeted this, and then this one guy. I always forget his name, and his Twitter account doesn't show his name, but he's funny as hell. But he, I said something that would be useful would be a spreadsheet that shows you all the features, maybe grouped by category, and then with a status or a date when the thing's going to be available. And, oh, his name's Nick Savadis.
Hmm.
Nick Savadis. He's this is the most boomer thing I've ever read. That cracked me up. But that's what I need, dude. I need a spreadsheet of this shit.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great?
Maybe you should create it. Like, could be
I know
big,
I
could
should.
go
I know I
viral.
should. I know I
I
should. I'm
found
not.
the inventory market thing that you're talking about. It's like
Okay. Okay.
match
Cool.
your inventory to the right market. It says fulfillable
That's it.
inventory lets you match your inventory location with the intended market, prevent
That's it.
overselling. It's amazing.
That's the one. That's the one. Yep. Which is bad for me because that was going to be one of my nice little Mesa use cases. Let's assume it doesn't quite work right. Just kidding. But yeah, so it's cool. But yeah, dude, I think
It's
we've
an exciting winter.
yeah, dude, a lot of goodies, cool stuff. I'm literally just scrolling up and down repeatedly in the edition site looking
Just
for things. Yeah.
it's interesting because like they feature a lot of things that have already been implemented and then things that are coming soon. So I think your spreadsheet is actually a good idea because it's hard to separate what's actually available, what says it's coming soon, what
So
says
hard.
it's like
Yeah.
in developer preview because I feel like that's sooner maybe or maybe
Right.
that means it's later on. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, like the 3D models. I noticed somebody tweeted they were playing around with the 3D model, and it looked okay.
Mm.
It wasn't as good as like an actual product video or something like that. But
You
that
use your phone?
launched because I
Wow.
remember seeing that launch. I want to say a month or two ago.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Harley tweet about it. I don't know if this is a new thing or not, but pretty cool. Damn, 3D models, pretty sweet.
Mhm. Yep.